Good morning, everyone. Good morning for those who are actually living the morning. I know that a lot of you are living the afternoon or even quite late at night for the west part of the world. We are based in Paris, France here, so it's 9 a.m. I've seen in the chat that the people coming today are spanning from 5 in the morning to I, I guess midnight. So thank you very much for joining. It's We found that the 9 a.m. spot is really what covers the most spaces, but I know that a lot of you are also going to watch this on replay. This is why we have chosen a platform and to make the replays available and public to everyone. We're very happy to keep on sharing some content with all of you. We are very curious actually to hear from you on the content that you feel we would provide value. The team here is really diving in a wide variety of subjects. We try to identify the ones that are coming from the field and sharing it with you. We know that one of the key aspects where you are listening to us is we are seeing a lot of different situations, and most of you are based in operators or consulting companies working for operators. And in that case, you have only one view of what's happening in the infrastructure you're working on. So do let us know, contact us. We'd be happy to create some dedicated content if this can help. Um, Good morning from Eldora. So I guess it's morning for you too, Annabella. We are going to wait just a couple of minutes before starting on the fun topic that is smishing, which is everything but fun. And I'm joined by Philippe. How are you, Philippe?
Hello, very good morning, and yeah, good day to everyone, depending on your time zone. Great to present that. That's actually the first time we present PTM anti-smishing deployment
Yep.
to the public, right? So that's great. It's What's good is to see the variety of people that are attending here. We see basically a mix of operators, of course, but also vendors who look for a solution, or I guess there's some integration questions. Then also carriers who are looking to be able to deploy that for their customers. And yes, there's definitely an administration and government pressure to fix this problem. So that's quite normal that there's a few regulators on the call. And we also have some people from active deployment. So hi to everyone, and good to see you on this webinar.
I think we will be able to start. Let me drive the slides quickly. So the topic for today is anti-phishing. So you're stuck with me for a little definition, and then Philippe will take over on the more technical part of things. Again, this is very much a conversation with the community. We have been working on different software products. For those who may not know P1 as much as others can, P1 Security is a boutique firm really specialized in mobile network security. We have three arms in our company. One is consulting, in the sense of we do vulnerability assessments towards any telecom protocol, so from SS7 to 5G and FFVI. You name it, we've audited it. The second part is training. We have an online training platform. We deliver hundreds of training a year to really try to bridge network teams with security knowledge and security teams with network knowledge. What we feel is our topic, and the one listening to us, the network security experts know that it's extremely difficult to actually have that expertise, and we are those experts to companies in the world. And the last part is software. We are a software vendor, software editor, and we build software that do mostly vulnerability scanning on protocols and threat monitoring on telecom protocols. So what we've been working, and the team has been working for some months now, backed by a few of our customers looking to have more help on mobile anti-phishing or smishing, and this is what we will cover today. If you have any questions on these topics, don't hesitate to reach out directly at on contact at P1Sec. I'm behind the email. We are not that big. We don't have an army of people looking at the different generic emails. But to kickstart things and where we stand in terms of smishing. So let's start with quick context, use cases and definitions. So one thing that I feel is really important to discuss is mobile network security is coming to the front page. So smishing is one of it, but as a lot of you may know, Russia has hacked Kyivstar several times and managed to take down the whole network completely. What they have used as components of their kill chains is mobile network security. It's vulnerabilities in mobile networks. And when you look at Optus, who has been suffering from a massive outage in, I think it was South Wales, in the south of Australia, 12 millions disconnected, AT&T 3 weeks back. Every single time mobile network security is involved. It's not the only, as security is, there is not only one access. They are trying many things. Attackers are trying many things. And one thing that they are using a lot is smishing. Smishing is using SMS to get malicious information. And let's not forget that for the operators in the room, SMS is a large driver of revenue. So you don't like OTT apps, the over-the-tops, the WhatsApps, the Vibers of the world. You want more traffic on SMS. So when you look at 2FA, MFA, those are going to be increasingly on SMS, and that makes SMS an even wider target and a very important target to attackers. So this is coming to the front page. A lot of people are aware of that. Regulators, and you are in the room, are looking at it with increased concern, and it's a good concern to have because, and I will share it just afterwards. Quick definitions first. Phishing is using emails to share a malicious URL and get your confidential information. Smishing is the same for SMS. It's using SMS text messages to lure victims into clicking malicious links. It's exploding in terms of growth. We are seeing like the numbers that you see are absolutely massive, more than 1,000% of increase of phishing attacks in a year. So it's really something that everyone should be concerned about. So and the phishing and smishing is billions of dollars of fraud, of revenues. It's impacting your subscribers, the B2C, our families, and all the individuals that are using operator networks. But more importantly, the enterprise and governments are the real target for massive ransomware. And when you look at ransomware, the amounts expected are higher and higher because the complexity of attacks need to be higher and higher from attackers. So they want more money for more complexity of work involved. So to make it to make a quick schematics on what it is, you have an incoming message, either an email or an SMS, email phishing, SMS smishing, asking you to share some specific data, and to connect to a fake Amazon account, a fake bank account, a fake public account, to have your driver license, to re-engage your tax or whatever. And in that case, the URL is very much looking like the real one. The website is very much looking like the real one, and it redirects to the wrong domain and gather your or the victim's confidential data. That confidential data, we all think about, old nannies putting in their credit card numbers, but in reality, we see a lot of attacks around, financial directors on how to put the IBANs for the company account, pretending to be the CEO. So I have to be extra careful if Philippe sends me a message asking me for money for a very critical topic. Maybe it's not Philippe. So looking at specifically at enterprise and government targets. Obviously, complete workforce looking for the simple frauds, but the high value targets we have all heard about journalists being targeted, political figures being targeted, and in that case, a lot of times smishing is involved. Smishing is something that is, and this is one of the security challenges. It's very easy to deploy. So I'm not an attacker by trade. Philippe was, but it's very easy. It's very scalable. You can send millions and hundreds of millions of SMS for really cheap. Even if it's paying in comparison to the scale of the attack, it's really simple. And one thing that is extremely important is that it's completely invisible. When you attack a pharmaceutical company and you are going to attack all the R&D department on smishing to gather access to their internal network, that internal network would have patent details. The actual organization, the pharmaceutical lab, doesn't know anything about it. They don't have visibility on smishing, not at all. The operator has, but the actual company doesn't. So they're being attacked. They know it, but they can't track it. It's very difficult for companies because they are completely blind about it. So this is also one of the reasons why we have built the software that Philippe will introduce. It's because we feel that there is visibility to be brought to the enterprises owning the subscriber, let's say. And I guess this is my part on the definition side. Philippe, do you have anything to add maybe on the security challenges?
No, and that's exactly the good segue into the next slide, actually, which is really about basically what we typically have as a, sorry, not this one, yeah, have as a typical kind of attack on phishing and smishing, which is typically the theft of credentials, and the fact that these attacks are coming directly to the handset, and the fact that nearly everyone, went BYOD, so basically employees using their own devices in order to access the enterprise information, makes it basically a dumb but efficient attack for theft of credentials, for the massive basically attacks on enterprises, but also on regular subscribers. And that means basically targeting your grandmother with her giving a credit card, or even basically relatives who are up to date, and yet paying attention to every kind of message that comes in is difficult. So this is a very typical and common use case: theft of credentials, theft of credit card, etc. But actually it can be used in much more sneaky ways, and the smartness of this attack deals with the scale of it. You count on one person being having a bad reflex, and who is going to do something, who is going to actually click on a link and believe that what was sent is correct. And typically, where we go into these sneaky approaches, of course, phishing and smishing is used to deliver malware. And that's called very often the one-click attack. You receive a link to something, you click on it, and then from there, you're going to receive a malware that is tailored for your devices, detecting if it's an iPhone or Android, and then detecting further technical parameters that enable the malware to trigger, to be run because of a vulnerability. So what we see here is typically attacks that are both massive and sometimes very targeted. And in both cases, what is important is that it's something sneaky and much more effective than what we would like to believe. One other very common use case for attackers is, of course, third-party impersonation, basically using your providers and using these excuses, but also sometimes to trigger them to actually provide 2FA or multi-factor authentication information through phishing and smishing attack, effectively bypassing these kind of MFA and 2FA. So these kind of attack actually are very present, I would say. And you can say here, you can see in these attacks that some are with dumb and plain shippers information, etc. But some are actually very sneaky, such as the ones on financial services, banks, transfer, VIP attacks, the president fraud, basically, asking some people to transfer some money because there's a urgent need, the famous SMS from the CFO. So these are attacks that are actually quite difficult to manage at scale and are completely off the limits and off detection for enterprises.
One fun use case is actually the president of France that has been smished on the training budget that so it's called the CPF in France, and he has been smished to gather his confidential data as part of a large bunch, and you've seen an email saying you should spend your training, your public training budget.
Yeah.
So
in terms of solution now basically everyone probably knows about this kind of attack, but how to detect and to fight them at scale. So here what we see is that the pain is different. We see some regulators that are pressing for anti-smishing, so that's a new pressure. And this new pressure is basically saying you as an operator cannot provide a vector to attack massive amount of subscribers. You need to do something. So there's regulations that is coming up in many places. Of course, you have it in Europe, but it's basically something where all regulators worldwide are looking into this. Also, the thing is, there's a need for intelligence on top of prevention. That means that some of these attacks are more important to be detected than to be prevented, because they mean that someone is targeting one of the VAP. And what we've seen is that during critical events, such as we can't really name which one precisely, but things like the G20, G8, Davos, or Olympics, there are some deep focus on some specific high-value targets or VIPs that are crucial information to defend when they are targeted. Also, what we see is that the adoption curve is actually not so easy. There are some operators who want to do that in SMSCs, but some of the SMSCs actually are more message-centric, not security-centric. And the level of detection is related to what you do to detect. And you need to basically be able to first adapt to the need of the operator, active versus passive detection. And then you need to adapt to the regulatory framework. In some countries, it's okay to look into all the messages for that. In some other countries, you need to actually declare it, or it's outright impossible. There are also some cost of smishing, and directly here, the problem is call center flooding. And if your call center doesn't have this threat intel and receive basically a call about someone complaining that his mobile is not working properly, it's the onus and the responsibility very often is on the operator to provide why. Now, when the operator provides this information to their call center people, well, then it's really easier to say, okay, it's maybe not the network, it's maybe your handset. And hence, it moves a bit the liability and responsibility. In some countries, there's a strong liability of the operator to actually be fighting smishing. So here, very simply, what we see is that there's three big domain, which is really about the education, and they're part of these attempts are related to actually training the subscribers and the people using, but also even the operator itself amongst the different departments. Then there's a training at the enterprise level, saying, well, at the enterprise, you can be targeted. Then the second part is about detection, being able to passively detect all these traffic-based set of smishing attacks, and to be able to then actively defend it, pass it to the protection. That means sending it for SMSC filtering, signaling firewall filtering, etc., etc. What's important is to know that there are plenty of blind spots there. For example, a lot of MVNOs don't understand that they are actually a subset which very often is not protected, and very often is a good vector for some attacker to specifically target. Now, here what we see also is that there's, in terms of protection and response, both the notion of filtering, but also the notion of alerting. And it's quite important to alert some, first your call center, that some subscribers are targeted, even though it's filtered, because sometimes the phishing attempt is going to use multiple vectors in order to reach these people. And the mobile phone may be still compromised, yet the SMS was filtered because it went through other communication means. And of course, the best is, if possible, to combine this with user plane detection and filtering, so that you're able to detect all these domains, even though they were filtered. For example, you want to see if they were not triggered by some other vectors. So typically, how does that work? How do we detect this? So the first big approach is list-based. That's what everyone does. That means that we aggregate, of course, all the public phishing lists, etc. But what we see is that there's a very dynamic environment. The time to use a new domain that was just registered for a phishing attempt is very short. Sometimes it's a matter of minutes. So that means that you need to have some kind of online list creation, which is about domain reputation, domain scoring, but also based on the threat intel we get on the phishing actors by monitoring them. Then secondly, there's a dynamic analysis of the links and of all the technical information about the SMS. And that goes through, for example, the fishy registers, or domain name registers, which are not great. Then a timeline analysis of all these technical parameters. This has quite a big impact in detection. Then looking into the content itself is really about the content analysis, for example, the redirect analysis, the way things are written, but also smishing techniques, tools, and procedures of the attackers, how they do that. That can go up to what is called phishing kit retrieval, which means we get to collect the phishing kits that are used by the phishers in order to know better who was targeted, who was impacted, who has basically was successfully compromised, etc., etc. And this goes to basically an answer about each individual suspected message, which is it probable smishing, yes or no? So here, what we see in terms of alert, when we say, okay, now that was probably a smishing attack. So typically, we always give the reference to the vulnerability knowledge base to qualify exactly what kind of smishing or phishing SMS it was. Then, of course, the smishing domain and URL, where we basically say, okay, this is what they tried to make the person click, but then it resulted into this actual attack vector. So the whole chain is super important. Then statistics, roughly, basically, in real time, you'll have roughly one smishing attempt every 1,000 SMS. But what we see is that you'll get big bursts. And these bursts of basically smishing attacks are really campaigns, just like email campaign by the attackers. And then the total number of SMS that were sent, why we flagged why we detected that it was indeed a smishing attack, and then the current detected victim and the top victims, and also indicator if it's roaming or home subscriber. What we saw in the deployments of PTM anti-smishing is that some operators see actually a lot of smishing attacks on their roamers. And since they see the SMS of the roaming subscribers, they see there some attacks that are actually targeting vast amount of people in their home countries. And of course, we want to identify also the top senders of these smishing attacks. What we see is that typically you'll have one new number for 10 subscribers, and sometimes even 1 out of 2. So that means that you can't rely on traditional SMSC detection methods about one subscriber sending lots of spam, because that's not just how they do it anymore. The attacker saw that it was detected, so they're not relying on that anymore. Then typically what, in a nutshell, PTM anti-smishing is, it's based on the SS7 traffic and SMSC traffic. So basically mostly on the traffic that is coming from roaming at first. We'll discuss about this. Then it can detect, of course, the more rare SMS over diameter. And we are also doing experimentation to be ready when SMS over 5G SBI, so 5G standalone, will be actually active. Then we have basically active APIs in order to both score these attempts, to actively push filter to the signaling firewall, to the SMSCs, to any kind of relay system that may be on the path, in line. And also with a big concern about queuing and acceleration, meaning that what we saw is that in some case, operators were coming back to us and say, okay, we tried to do it at this level, let's say SMSC or signaling firewall, and it didn't work because it was actually creating problem in the delivery of legitimate SMSs. And then a big part is about how we detect. So our cloud API, in order to collect a threat intel feed and then do the exact kind of detections that enable us to properly detect these smishing attacks, but also how to perfectly segment the critical infrastructure from basically these cloud APIs. Now, typically in the deployment, what's interesting is that some of our customers want that yesterday. And they say, okay, how can I deploy that efficiently? And one way to deploy it efficiently is actually to deploy it at the carrier, because the carrier sees the first easy, low-hanging fruit, which is basically on the roaming interconnect. And we'll see in the maturity model later, basically what are the next steps. But as a first step, it's quite a good idea, because there you're going to basically get all the traffic from the roaming traffic from your carrier. Then this is going to be fed to PTM anti-smishing, who is going to query the basically anti-smishing cloud APIs. Then based on that, detect these smishing attempts, send the alerts to, of course, the operator SOC, but also can send it to the enterprise SOC. So that's where monetization of the security investment comes in. It's basically what we call secure operators, and the capability to generate revenue for the operator by actually selling these detection capabilities to enterprises. And typically, enterprises not only have large fleets, but also have large BYOD, where this integration, the consent of the subscriber, all this needs to be automated, and we provide that. Then everything is pushed as filter optionally. That means that you may want to detect, but at the same time filter and reduce nuisance. And of course, then the SMS can be forwarded on demand to the subscribers, etc. So typical integration here that we see into the general defense of the operator is that the bottom part here is really dealing only with the operator. So typically forwarding the detection to the operator mobile SOC, integrating that into security orchestration and automation response. So this also ties in directly with pushing the filters, either automatically or validated by human, to the signaling firewall, to the SMSC, but also to the user plane firewall. And this is actually a bi-directional arrow, because the point is also to be able to collect information from the user plane. So this enables to go even one step further. These alerts, they start now to be used in an interesting way. I don't know if you came, maybe not everyone didn't come to MWC or so, our mobile Sec AI presentation, but what is happening is that these alerts are pushed into a large language model, which can be queried, of course, by the security operation centers. That's another way to get faster answer to security questions than looking at the CM, but also by the call center. And there was a very good presentation on this by SK Telecom at Mobile World Congress in the reduction of the cost for the call center. Because not only it enables the call center to pre-populate basically their question with all the selectors about this individual who is calling, but also to actually get immediate context. This guy may be under attack from phishing. And when you have that as a first line of response and the links to what are the potential next steps, it really reduces the amount of work and guesswork, and also the amount of taking responsibility, because in some cases, and you can say, well, it's probably on your handset. I've already talked about the forwarding also of the alerts to basically enterprise through secure operator to generate return on investment. And this is really rising and interesting because these guys take action. These people really are basically investing into reducing the risky behaviors and training. Now, what we see here is that not all operators are at the same maturity level. And we see a progression, actually. The typical first progression is, of course, deploying these anti-smishing techniques, at least as detection, on roaming and national interconnects. And then from there, they go like, oh, okay, but we see some others which are coming either from the own RAN or affecting our MVNOs or coming even from the MVNOs. Then the typical next step is actually to be able to offer that as a commercial services to enterprises. The enterprises don't have any other provider of this information. Only the operator can provide this reliably. We see then more advanced operator and enterprises who actually want to know more about the attackers, and that's where you see phishing kit retrieval, reverse engineering, and attribution, which are triggered. This is not really for everyone, but that's probably 1 out of 10 enterprises. Then there's basically this integration with the SMSC for active filtering. And here what's interesting is that be it directly in the SMSC or by any other kind of basically prevention, it's never a perfect solution. You always have some smishing attacks that go through. Then there's basically the rest of the list is more for the more advanced organization who have a better ecosystem. So capability to integrate with their CTI, with the passive DNS monitoring, with also filtering at DNS level and at GTP level, GTPU level, that means the user plane. Then coping with the new and upcoming SMS over diameter, and we've yet to see any kind of anti-smishing on 5G. Also, one important thing is that we see also the need for better subscriber education. So that's an area which is not to be undermined. And here it's really tying into our conclusion, which is really that we have way to prevent this sadly effective attack. Anti-smishing is and phishing in general is really seen usually as a very dumb attack, but it's efficient. It's really affecting millions of subscribers. And here we show a very good result in fighting this by being able to have something that scales, but also something that's progressive. Very often we've seen projects which were stalled because the moment to turn it on, people were really scared about the impact on the SMSC production, on the accuracy of the alerts, on the allowance and agreement from the subscribers. What we see also is that the existing security system definitely were not adapted to this particular domain. It is a particular domain. And there's many, many different vector of attacks for these smishing and phishing attacks. So we see this combining in a sometimes bad way with some operator who are not at this good level of maturity. They need first to get a feeling on, is it really a problem at my operator, and then the legal context to be guided into saying, okay, can I do that? And most of the time, yes. But in some places, you need to just adapt to the regulation and to basically privacy concern, for example. And also what we see in terms of impact and costs, some of them are really surprised in how much it costs them. And compared what very often we saw, where they say, well, it's revenue because these are still SMS that are sent by foreign networks. Yes, but sometimes it's actually your subscriber who are sending it using your SIM card, and who are creating a lot of problems on even your call center, but also SMSC itself. We also see now a rising ROI objectives from operators who say, well, I could sell that. I could generate revenue by selling this to enterprises who cannot do go another route to get this information. And here what we see is that this domain, for us, it's borderline to what we used to do. It's really a domain by itself. It's not signaling security per se, but it's definitely related to that. And very often there's a lack of understanding how important it is to deal with it with a very comprehensive approach, and to understand that it's really a general defense against it that needs to be organized. And often what we see in operators is that it's different teams that get created, which are next to the SOC, next to the SMSC team, next to the roaming teams, but are actually specialized. And that's quite interesting to see how this is rising, and hopefully because actually the attacks are rising.
And I think you're, surfacing a topic on mobile network security as, being one area and one topic addressed by specificity. There was one question in the chat around spoofing.
Yep.
That for us, in terms of product, and to answer your question, we handle spoofing within the threat monitoring platform that we have, that we call the PTM, and PTM has the anti-smishing module, and we have SS7 diameter that handles and takes care of spoofed sources. So yeah,
that's quite interesting, because actually what we've seen is the level of information that we get on spoofed messages is much deeper than traditional, for example, SMSC-based detection, because they actually lose a lot of information that we still retain because we are signaling based. So this was related to the whole timeline and analysis, technical analysis, which we can do because we see everything. And that's the problem of very often some solutions that are deployed, is that they're like, well, I cannot get any kind of context about if it was spoofed, if it was relocated somewhere, if it was. We see everything, and there's people actually in the attendance who see what we did with PTM anti-smishing or PTM regular on signaling network. So that's really helpful here for having accuracy, but also for having, so less false positive, but also for having accuracy in the detection of the smishing itself.
And I don't know if you are if you managed to see also the topics around the privacy provisions from certain countries around SMS and not being able to inspect the content of those communication. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, because here there's a difference between belief, what we think we cannot do, and what we actually can do. And the good thing is that we're talking basically to half or even more of the regulator on the planet. And basically they need guidance too. They need to say, oh, how can we balance the protection of the subscriber and his privacy, which is very legitimate, and basically preserving their communication methods. So actually what we see is that the typical belief of operators is actually that they cannot do much, where actually they can do a lot, provided they inform, they respect expect some special cases, and these are not actually so trivial. There's many cases where there's few cases where you cannot do this detection. Very, very few. Actually, it's mostly applicable to all countries. Now, what is different between countries is what information you need to do to the subscriber, to the regulators, to also your partners. And that's actually what we see. There's a lot of fear of breaking something, but when you go in the detail, actually you can really do much. You can do a lot. Yes, there's plenty of questions. So what was the next one?
So we discussed about the spoofing, smishing being sent from fake base station. I mean, this is something that is indeed very true.
So there was a question about the active filtering. So yeah, not every operator wants this. We have PTM anti-smishing deployment where actually they don't want to have active blocking pushed to the SMSCs. But yes, that's something that we can do. And also on this question from Sambasiva, I totally agree. 1% of successful delivery of smishing can lead to problems. Absolutely. What we see is that there's absolutely no solution that can guarantee that there won't be one SMS with smishing links that is delivered to the subscriber. There's always leakage. So the question here is how early, and then how early you can do the detection, and then what kind of downstream actions. And that's where typically sending SMSs to the subscriber saying, warning, you may have phishing attempts in progress. In some cases, it's desired. In some other cases, it's something that is frowned upon. So there's really different cases here. And not one operator is exactly the same as the next. Also, we collaborate there with some people who are actually actively hunting these features. So the threat intel part is quite interesting and important. Yes, I think we get quite. So another question, how early is the solution detecting? So in our case, we can say we are super early because we see the SMS coming in even before the SMSC sees it. So of course, it's just a few milliseconds, but sometimes it really is enough for us to just output some information saying, well, there's here a high risk of smishing. And then, yes, on this case, it's basically links very well into the passive monitoring. So the passive monitoring we do for PTM is basically we receive into PTM, which is running either on-premise at the operator or at the carrier for the operator. This PTM receives a copy of all the incoming SMS traffic and basically signaling traffic even. And then we extract the SMSs from this signaling traffic. So what that means is that, of course, we have access to the content of the SMS, but we have access also to all the metadata that is only present at the signaling level. And this metadata, which is from basically SCCP and TCAP headers and basically the way it's structured, is going to give us some technical information, even on the kind of stack, on the kind of sender which was used. And we can then detect things like spoofing, but also some timeline-related events, such as some people being, let's say, in part of a wider attack, in ways that many active solutions at the SMSC level, for example, or at the signaling firewall level, are either in a hurry to process. So that means that being in line is great for filtering, but it means that you cannot afford to lose things. And also, sometimes at the SMSC level, you don't have this information. So that's basically the same monitoring system we use for all the regular PTM deployment for basically telcosec, basically monitoring the signaling, security, and attack at the signaling level. We use the same to do PTM anti-smishing. Yeah, I think that we answered, I guess, most or every question so far.
Yes, I think we did. Do you have, for everyone listening in, don't hesitate if you have any other question. The presentation is done on our side. Obviously, we know how complex network infrastructures are. We've talked about spoofing. We've talked about cross protocols, posture. There is a lot of things that are very specific to you, to your clients, to the operators involved in your country. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be happy to to deep dive a little bit in your realities. But hopefully this was helpful to all of you. We've shared some light on really important topics. Smishing is massive, as Philippe was saying. It's massive. It's going to grow. It's keeping on growing. So we feel there is a lot to do here. Let us know if we can do anything more, if there is some content that you would like from us. But the next one is very much technical, as we are going to release an open source tool called QC Super that gathers. So I'm looking at you here, Philippe. I'm afraid of going at it, but it gathers the radio from Qualcomm chips to transfer them into TCAPs.
There's even the author of QC Super on this call. So yes, that's going to be next webinar. What is the date?
It's on the 27th of March.
27th of March, and we'll be presenting the new release of QC Super 2.0, which basically enable you to monitor raw frames and from the radio, and now with 5G support, with the new Android also support. So really cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. So for everyone working on security and telecom security, share it to the people that you know that may be interested into that. And if you want some other content, we are going to keep on releasing new webinars and things. But if you
Marin
need something,
will be on. Marin, the author of basically this tool, will be on the call on the webinar next. So available for question. I'll be there too. And Pierre, I think you'll be there too, if I'm not.
Absolutely, I will be even more useless at this call than the one from the other ones. No, it was a pleasure to have everyone. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention, and looking forward to speaking with each and every one of you. Merci, Philippe.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Have a great day, everyone.